It's live.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and everybody is in attendance. Frankie, Bob, and Steve, myself, and waiting on Craig. Right now, he's not here. And so we can go ahead and just start by approving the agenda. Do we have a motion or any changes or anything to the agenda?
Second.
Bob will first and Steve will second. And approval for the minutes.
Oh, time out, Rita. You should call a vote on that motion for the agenda approval.
Oh, you have to vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So everybody in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Bob, aye. Frankie?
Aye.
Okay. And I'm an aye. So that is passed for the agenda. And then how about approval of the minutes?
Before we approve them, I have one request for amendment.
Okay.
In the paragraph on golf report, where it talks in the near the end of the next to the last line of that paragraph, it says that 18-hole cooperation between Silver Bay course. I think it would be better if it said cooperation with.
Okay.
I remember when I was playing football, our coach asked one of our guys, "How much do you weigh, John?" He said, "Between 93."
Okay, so we can change it to cooperation with Silver Bay.
Right.
And a motion to approve that, those minutes?
Yeah, I move that we approve the minutes with that one change.
Okay, second, Bob? Okay, and then we'll vote. Frankie, are you in favor?
Yes.
Right.
Bob?
Oh, sorry. You're calling a roll.
Steve?
Aye.
And Rita? Aye. Okay, and that moves us right along to committee reports. So we'll start with Paul. Golf, or do we want to start with Jack?
Would it be reasonable to do the Jack Stone's presentation first, since he's not being paid to be here by us?
I would be in favor of doing that. Jack, can you hear me? Looks like your sound is on, Jack. Is your volume up?
Yeah.
It's working. I gotta use the sauce.
Okay, Jack's back. And now you just have to push your speaker button, Jack.
There we go. All right.
There we go. Welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Technology, and then everybody does a different one. Some do Zoom and some do Skype.
Yes.
And this is, I think, the first time I've used Yahoo. So.
Oh,
okay.
Wonderful. Well, we're just going to jump right ahead to your proposal,
Okay.
since we don't want to take up too much of your time.
All right.
Do you have anything you want to, do you want to just tell us a little bit about it real quick? And
Sure. We've been doing this for about 10 years. On that third weekend of July, we get all of our canoes and kayaks and stand-up paddleboards down to the harbor. And we also have representatives from some different companies down there too, showing off the gear. It actually, I think it does more. I think it sends more business to the trading post and to the Ben Franklin store than it does to us. But that's okay. The reason we do this is for the community and for the tourists, and it's a good time. We bring down all of our guides. We bring down instructors. We take people out, showing them how to paddle and all that. Now, in the years past, we've kind of turned everybody loose and just let them do their own thing. You know, they sign in and we'd send them out on a boat. We'd watch, and we had people out on the harbor to make sure nobody got in trouble. Now with COVID starting last year, we've changed the way we do this, and actually we found that it works a whole lot better. People have to sign up in advance. We take them out, and it's more organized in terms of we take people out for, I don't know, 15 minutes. We paddle them around, give them a little bit of instruction, and we try to keep everybody separated. Everybody wears masks, and we try to keep everybody distanced. We rope off the area. So in the past, we've always had people congregate around the boats. We don't let people do that anymore because of COVID. Now, if things change, we may change some of that. But right now, it looks like the summer is going to be the same as it was last summer. Well, yeah, we have some equipment down there. We have some, last year we had a couple screen tents up that people could look at and that, but it's pretty casual, and it's a good time. Everybody's, I would suspect we get people who come in special that weekend just to come to our water festival. It makes us feel good. Makes us feel like we're accomplishing something. So that's, anybody have any questions as to what we do or why we do it?
Stephen, you'll have to unmute yourself.
It looked pretty thorough to me.
Well, when you've got somebody like Beth Poliquin working for you, you know things are going to be thorough. You know they're going to be well done. She's my general manager, and she is the best.
Maybe by July, we won't have to worry about masks.
Well,
That would be wonderful.
we could always hope. We'd like to add some things to this during the week, but with COVID, I'm not sure we can do that. I'd like to do some stuff with people on the trail. I really want this to be a Cook County thing, not just a Stone Harbor thing, and not just a Grand Marais thing. I've always wanted this to be a community activity, not just us. And so hopefully we can do that this year a little bit more.
Okay. Well, I think everything is in order here. If nobody has any other further questions, do we have a motion to Dave?
Dave has a question or a comment.
Yes. So this has been a successful event for ever since Jack's been doing this, like he said, probably going on 10 years now, and it really kind of fills a gap in the events calendar. We used to, years and years ago, have the Dragon Boat Festival that was very popular at the end of July. And so once the Dragon Boats were done, it was, on Jack. He stepped up and created this event. He does all the work, very minimal effort for park staff. He's requesting use of Harbor Park with very, little additional support on our behalf. There's already electric down there. There's garbage cans and picnic tables that we'll certainly support. But there is, over the years, there's been a few windy days, west wind days that have, driven some wave action into that corner of Harbor Park. And so a few years ago, Jack was good enough to start including the potential to relocate this to the rec park beach, to the campground beach, which would be out of that west wind. And so it's a real weather dependent activity, especially the stand-up paddleboarding and stuff, that if it's a big, west wind day, we just want everyone to know that we would be giving permission as well to bring this into the campground and operate off of the campground beach, likely down by the picnic pavilion. Of course, we're going to talk about the boat launch soon, but that area is going to be closed this summer. But starting, just to the north of the access in and around the picnic pavilion area, that'll all remain open and would be available for this event if the weather dictates that.
And then at that point, we would just let people know that it's been moved over to the rec park.
We've got signage for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it's bad,
Dave, I have one question, and that is, will the construction that we're having done this summer with the rocks impact upon what they're doing at all?
It shouldn't, Steve. That's all going to be, south of the pavilion, just down at the boat launch area itself.
And if things got really bad in the harbor, we would put it out behind the store in the East Bay. Problem with that is that the East Bay is much more susceptible to strong winds and rough water. So that's the reason we don't do it there, as a matter of fact.
Makes sense. Is there any other further questions? Welcome, Craig. Do we have?
The email, I went to a different email, so I didn't get it at home here.
Oh, okay, for the special events from Jack.
I'm ready to vote or to move or something.
Yes.
I move that we approve the application of Stone Harbor for the event that we've been discussing.
Okay, I'll second that. Let's go ahead and vote. Frankie? Aye. Okay. Bob?
Aye.
Aye. Steve?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
And Rita, aye. Okay. Thank you so much, Jack, for your time.
Thank you much for the approval, and come on down. We'll have some fun. All right.
Jack,
Take
before
care.
you go, oh, she went, never mind.
All right, so we're up to the golf report, Paul.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. We had talked about the rates, and so I kind of forwarded a sheet on that. Basically, things are pretty much the same. There's a few just bumps on just some subtle bumps. We're trying to keep things a little bit. We made a pretty big increase last year, so we're trying to hold things a little bit. But so we just I made some adjustments on some 18-hole rates, a little bit, just a few dollars increase on some memberships. So very subtle things. The other thing too is I had we've been talking about marketing, and so I had got a hold of there's a portion of our POS system that does a really neat service for T sheets and stuff like that electronically. I think it'd be good for us to look at. It does a lot for gathering information, that we can look at. It does
It's a POS system.
The point of sales, basically our computer system that we.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So this would make people would be able to book tee times online. We'd be able to get information to our members better. Our members could let us know if they're coming in, if they have any special needs. It's a really good communication tool, and I think it'd be a good marketing tool also. So they had sent me off. I did a webinar with one of their presenters, and it looks really good to me.
Can I just ask a question? My screen all broke up and I didn't hear that. What was it you're talking about right now? You said something about the POS system, and then you said something about a communication system.
Well, it's a secondary system. That is run by the same company as who does our POS, and it's
Okay.
And it does T sheets, electronic T sheets, so people can on your cell phone you can call in, and it's kind of the modern thing. But I think I'm looking at it because I'm thinking it'd be a good marketing tool these days. I think the traditional media isn't very effective. I think it's mainly all internet, cell phone. It's basically the Google ads and those sort of things is probably the most used methods right now. So I think that this would fall into, I think this would be a good tool for incorporating that kind of marketing. So they had forwarded me this information. It looks like, in a nutshell, I think their charge is about a couple $100 a month, or they can take some spots on your T sheet. And so, talking to the representative, he thought that might be a good way to go. It's a method where
It wouldn't cost anything.
they trade off rather than charge.
Advertising.
Yeah, they take trade in terms of some tea times. Like I think they said like three groups of tea times a week. and that's your trade for their service.
We can give them afternoon tea times and we won't miss it very much.
Well, talking to the representative, I mean, if you add up the numbers, dollars and cents, it's cheaper just to pay the fee. But in his case, he's thinking that a lot of times they won't even be filling those groups, you know. So, so these are things I'm looking at. I think it's a good tool, and like I say, it ties right into our current system. So, you know, I'm looking at other courses that are using it too. So, I think it's got merit.
Paul, the $200 for the season sounds awfully simple compared to having to have tea times that might or might not be filled and things of that sort.
Well,
That's
yeah,
per
I mean,
month, Steve.
in a nutshell, it might cost $1,000 a year, you know, but
Yeah, it's per month, right, Paul?
yeah.
Oh, per month, okay. Even so, it seems to me it's primarily a decision for you to make, Paul, because it's your staff time that's going to be required to do the managing and whatever complexity results.
Yeah, well, where I'm looking at this, I mean, I've got costs. I've got in my budget, I've got figures for advertising, and I'm thinking that this could be used for that too. Because I can run my promotions right online. Anybody that goes online can see what promotion we're dangling out there, and that can be on our website as well. So I'm looking at that pretty seriously for, you know, to go with our marketing.
So would you be paying for this year round, even though you're closed in the winter?
No, nope. It's just basically a per month. From my understanding, I'd be approaching them for using their service for probably like 5 months, 5 to 6 months of service.
Paul, I have two questions. One, as I look at the student rate and the difficulties that people in that age group have getting work and getting work that pays more, at even as much as $15 an hour, I wonder if that needs to be quite that high, and what it would cost us if we dropped it, you know, by any significant amount.
And which
The student age 18 to 24 rate.
okay.
Talking about the annual membership for them. At
Season member-
$279, Steve.
Oh, is that what you're talking, like the membership or what?
Yeah, the season membership for students aged 18 to 24 is $279, which is a lot more than the under 18 $99. And my sense is that if we're trying to build long-term marketing, that getting more people of that age group to pay wouldn't hurt.
So you're thinking about dropping that? You'd like to see that drop down a little bit, or like $199, or
I guess it would be helpful for me to know, do we have any idea how many people of that age group had memberships last time?
Well, there's a small group of people that were members last year, and they played quite a bit. But, you know, I'm not against the idea of trying to grow it, you know.
Let's see. Let me test a number out on the group. If you're 18 years old or young, if you're under 18, you pay $99. So what if we made the 18 to 24 rate either $199 or $249 or something like that?
Yeah, I think I can bring it down a little bit, but you know, I think that this coming year, I think it's going to be similar to last year, where anything that we're giving away as far as promotion, we're just giving away because I think that the golf will be in demand for. Again, I think this year it just goes good with the COVID.
Yep. Well, how would the rest of the members feel about $249 instead of $279 for that age group?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking the other members of the board, Do they have any
Yeah.
strong objections to that motion or some other idea or what?
Steve, if you're gonna drop it
I-
to 199, so it looks like it's a very small step up and not a step and a half.
Okay.
19
I
isn't
personally like
much
that idea if it doesn't cost more than we want to spend.
over- 19 isn't much over 18.
The other possibility is we might make up in revenue if we had a few more players. If we drop it to 199 from 279, that's what, $80 difference. So we would need to have, if we got 10 more members, we'd probably more than make up for the loss, wouldn't we? At that rate.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have no problem with,
So how many people are, Paul?
how many, pardon me? What's that, Rita?
How many people are we talking about? How many people are we talking about in that age group? Do we know?
Oh, there's probably there's a group of about
estimate.
a dozen people that come out and play like that.
Of about how many?
Okay.
Like 12.
Okay, so we're
Okay,
talking
so-
$960 reduction.
So Steve, you're
We got
putting
five.
a motion in to drop it to 199.
Okay, well, sounds to me like I'll move that we adopt a season rate for students 18 to 24 for $199 for the season. And I'm
Okay.
hoping Bob will second it. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Here's something, if we just want to go down the rate sheet as a whole and discuss any changes or adjustments, and then
To
make one
199.
motion to approve the rates at the end, I think would be most
And were we
helpful.
keeping the age 18 to 24?
Okay. So when we get to that, approving the list, the number will be not 279, it'll be 199.
Yes. Yeah, that makes most sense on
I
these
agree.
rates. Let's look at the whole sheet, the whole 2021 rate sheet. And as we have already
And
identified
then
that student rate to change, if
Right.
there's any other changes
Because
necessary.
I have two questions as well.
We're still going to do the 15% discount for city residents.
Well, for membership. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will for membership, yeah.
For the season membership, yeah. Okay. And I wonder
That
if,
was one of my questions.
how many season members do we have from the city at this point?
And then I had two other questions, Paul, on the cart storage, Paul.
Yeah.
Steve, I think we're good.
Rita, you're kind of cutting out on me.
Yeah, you cut out on us, Rita.
Rita, if you can hear, try hanging up and rejoining the meeting.
I know my question was, I missed Steve because my whole system is cutting out, but, what, Patrick?
Try hanging up and rejoining the meeting because you've been.
Say it again.
Try hanging up and rejoining the meeting.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'd like to see the whole program, I think like Dave suggested, we wait and decide when looking at all the different prices. Not vote on this one part until we look at all of it.
Yeah. If there's any adjustments to be made, now would be the time to, as we go down this, not necessarily rate by rate, but if anything's standing out that, people are interested in reviewing or changing, now would be the time. And then we'll just do one motion at the end for the 2021 rates. And we've certainly got the note now on student. We're going to move that down to 199. Are there any other rates that people are interested in discussing? Hey, Rita's back.
Just a question as to whether there were any other increases that were more than $1 or $2.
No. Well, let's see here. Annual cart lease for households were $15 increase from $360 to $375. Yeah, let's see then. Let's see. And then also the family cart rental went from $850 to $875.
Yeah, it looks
was
like-
there a since I just-
Yeah,
It looks like most of the movement, most of the adjustments is just in the membership season pass rates, cart rates, season on the bottom half of the table for memberships and annual carts is where I see, 3% adjustments. The top half, the greens fees, look to be the same, principally the same as last year. And that's where,
Okay.
Paul touched on that early, where we at 22 for 9 holes are already well above the region. Most places are charging 18 to 20.
That's still pretty reasonable.
I did round up the 18 green fees from 33 to 35.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, let's see. I've got
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, Rita, but there's still a bit of a buffer.
Okay.
I bet your internet's just not fast enough.
So
I have a question on the annual cart. I don't know why that is. My questions were, gosh, it should be. I got super fast internet. Can you hear me now?
yeah.
I can hear you.
Rita, maybe try turning your camera off.
I'm going to sign and try it again.
I can hear you. The video's lacking.
The video's locked, but you can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, try turning
Paul,
your camera off.
can you
Rita.
hear me? I have a question on the annual cart. Okay, let me try that one. There we go. Turn off camera. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, you're consistent so far.
Yeah, try it.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. My question was the annual cart storage and trail fee of $2.99 as
Yeah.
available.
Right.
That's if you have your own cart, correct? And then the annual cart lease is $325. So there's only a $25 difference. We use a golf cart from the park, from the golf course versus bringing our own. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That's not very much of a difference to encourage. I mean, because we do kind of have a shortage of carts, don't we?
Well, we do, but we don't have space for any storage as our situation right now. That's something we had talked to one of the members about, trying to come up with something for another building. But we aren't there. That's just something if we're going to do something like that, it would be between the members trying to raise some funds to do something like that.
Paul, what was the cart storage last year?
It was the same.
Okay, well, if it's not going up, then I suppose we got any problem.
Yeah, I think originally it was like the trail fee is basically $99 and the for the year, and then the storage I think was originally around 150, and I think we just went up to rounded it up because that's for like your cart being in that space for the whole year, so we just put those two costs together, and that's how we came up with that figure.
So the only go ahead, Frankie.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the young 20s were paying $275 or $79, something like that. and we're talking about changing it to $199. My question is, what was 15% off of the original amount, the $279?
Yeah,
How much are you actually paying?
well, that's a good point. Yeah, because if you take,
That would go us to about 249.
yeah, if you take someone that's local and then you put the discount on that, it does bring the number down quite a bit.
Right.
It's about a $40
I wonder if we should look-
discount. Yeah, it's about a $40 discount on 279. It would finish at 237.
So if we put it at 199, then it's going to be really low for the locals.
Yeah,
So
well, we could do
Right.
we could do the two, we could put it out there as,
49.
yeah, the 249, knowing that if you discount it, it's going to be pretty close to that 199 figure.
That might be better. I think
I think
setting
that would be
it at 199, and then they get a discount makes it too low.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Frankie.
Well, and just to be clear on the discount, it's only for city residents. You're right. You must live in the Grand Marais city limits, as this is a bit of a tax break. The idea behind the discount last year was that city residents are already paying through their local property taxes to subsidize the course, as it were, because the course, is a lost leader. The general fund does support the course. City taxpayers do support the course through their taxes, and so we wanted to extend that 15% off to city residents as a bit of a thank you, or recognition of they're already paying on their tax bill for the course. And again, this is not meant to rub county residents the wrong way, but just to recognize that this is solely a City of Grand Marais funded golf course. And yes, we do have the majority of our members coming from the county, but we just wanted to throw some extra incentive in there for city residents to get out and use a course that they're already paying for.
Well, that plus, I'm hoping that this year we can do some focused marketing to city residents in some form,
Thanks for explaining that, Dave.
telling them about that season membership.
So are we back at 249 then for the student?
Well, if you take 15% off
Okay,
that,
do
it's
we have any?
if for city residents, I guess I would be in favor of more something like 229. If we could get some consensus on a middle ground, that would be helpful to me.
So we don't get any help from the county at all to pay towards the golf course.
No,
That's right.
So we can't offer the discount to the county people.
That was the original intent of the discount. And again, this, student price, I don't think it's worth getting too hung up on the student price. We like Paul said, we only sold less than 10 of these last year. And so 229, 249.
I think 249 is a pretty decent price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going with 249?
I think we could go with 249.
Okay.
Is there any other changes on there that we need to vote on?
Well, Paul and I have been talking a little bit about the new carts, right? We were expecting 3 brand new carts, and the idea of testing the market of like the value of a new cart, we might, if and when the time is right, we're going to charge a little bit more for those new carts, I believe, Paul. We were looking at maybe $15 versus $12 to recognize their newness. We're also talking about, potentially restricting so that the annual season cart lease would not be applicable to the new carts, that the season pass holders would be welcome to use the existing fleet, but not have access to those 3 new carts. We're trying to test the waters for, are they worth it? Are people willing to pay more?
I think those are all good points, Dave. I thought we were getting 5 new carts. Is that not, did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, we're getting 3 new carts.
3 new carts. Okay, well, I think those are all reasonable options, going to
Are
15.
you wanting to have that policy related to new carts incorporated into this motion, or do you want to bring that back for next month?
No, there's no need to include that on this sheet. These are just rack prices we need to get out on the internet soon.
Well, if there are no other
So are you
questions
saying-
about the rates, I have a motion.
Perfect.
I move that we adopt the rates as submitted by Paul with the change of the student rate from 279 down to 249, and that we reflect the fact that the city discount still exists. I think it's at 15%.
Second.
I'll second that, Steve. And let's go ahead and vote. Frankie?
Yes.
Okay. And Steve?
Aye.
And Bob?
Yes.
Okay. And Craig?
Yes.
And Rita? Aye. So that motion is passed. Thank you, Paul, for your time and your work.
Great.
Yeah, quick question for Paul.
Yes.
Does your new point of sale software also assign times for things like cart rental?
Yeah. Yes, it
And
does. From what I was seeing, it gives us information, letting us know what carts are out there. And it tracks our cart use, which is, I think, really good. For me, I can use that as far as, justification for getting new carts, how that makes sense, or how they're being used,
And does the money go through that
It sounds like
vendor?
a good program.
Pardon me?
Do they actually collect money through that vendor?
Yeah, there can be online transactions, or it can just simply be tea times or other supplements, accessories already pre-ordered so that they're there waiting when the customer gets there, and then they can take care of their purchase when they arrive if they want. So I think it'll be both.
I would think an online
Do
transaction.
we have to pay a fee?
Do we have to what, Rita?
Do we have to pay a fee in addition if they pay through that company?
Well, with our POS system, yeah, there's
All
a
this,
slight fee for any transaction, but I don't think it's not like it's really doubled up by using that service. The service is basically kind of a flat fee, like I described. It's either the monthly payment or the pay for tradable service.
There's not an additional charge to the person who does the charging of the thing on the line, right? Who makes the tea time?
I don't believe so. He emailed me more information on it, but I don't believe it is. No.
When you have your money down, you're more likely to show up.
Well, that could be. We had.
that's a good point, Bob.
Yeah, I just think that a lot of people are using that method these days, and I'm kind of interested to try it out. We can try it out if it's something we don't like or it doesn't seem extremely beneficial. We can stop using it too. But to me, it looks like one of those sort of products. It looks like it's really well put together. So as far as using it, over time. On our end, we'd learn more about how to use it. It would just be a better tool,
As long as the agency and the gateway are secure and you don't have to do a lot of cyber gymnastics to maintain your credentials for having credit card charges.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, done that.
Well, I guess, yeah, I hope so too.
And am I correct, Paul, that this will allow you to do some better digital marketing once we have the data that the system provides?
Yeah, I think so, because we can communicate We can communicate with anybody we want on there. In addition to some other things that, we're talking about doing, just putting, advertisements online for that hit your region. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but, like if you put stuff out on Facebook as an advertisement, you hit more people than if you just send it to your, whoever you have on your data list, So, yeah, I think it's a good marketing tool, and I'm kind of excited to see what it would do.
As I said before, Paul, I'm inclined to let you decide whether you pay $200 a month or give them a few tea times. That's basically a question of how much work it is for you to manage the tea time piece.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about all this electronic stuff. They have things, they've been looking at their presentation. It looked like a lot of the questions and bugs and problems that do occur running this stuff, they've already kind of got solutions to. So it's kind of neat. But yeah, so as far as whichever way we had set up, it would be ready to flow smooth, I think,
Well, it sounds like you've been doing a lot of good work there, Paul, keeping us updated and moving in the future.
Yeah, the old future. Yeah, and the other thing is it sounded like that their program, although it sounds pretty, it's well laid out. We don't need a real sophisticated computer. Basically, just rather right now we're running our operations with a not a full laptop, just an iPad up there and it works great. But we're gonna have to switch to a regular, computer with keyboard and stuff. It'll work a lot better with this system, but that's not a big deal. So
Sounds good. Anything else, Paul?
that's
Any
it.
other questions for Paul? Well, thank you. We'll see you next month.
Okay. Thank you much.
Thanks,
Take
Paul.
care.
Yep. See y'all later.
Okay, Craig, City Council report.
The last meeting, the one thing we talked about that affects the park is moving ahead with the community connection part there, that the landing is out there, they referring it to. And there is an 8-inch water line that goes through the park that's going to need to be engineered and moved. And so we approved the engineering of that, and to gather up the costs of what it's going to be to move that 8-inch water line. It wasn't spec'd in the original construction of the Highway 61 project going west. It was left out. So that's something that we approved. That'll be coming forth here probably pretty soon because it's got to get incorporated into the second phase of the highway project. That's one thing that we did that would be information for the park to know about. I guess as far as the landing itself, we're going to circle back on some discussions over that and how that's going to be constructed, and getting obviously some engineering numbers on what that particular structure is going to cost, so that the city can move ahead on approving some design. We've saw some preliminary designs on it, but they're still being changed a little bit. So we don't have a final number on that yet, but that'll be another thing that'll be coming forward in the future here pretty quick. So those are the two things that affect the park as far as the water line is concerned, and that construction of that community center, community landing area.
I didn't quite understand what was happening with the community landing area.
Well, that was something that was left out of the design work of this highway project because it's a project that the city's taking on. It's not affiliated with the state highway project. So the design is being done right now. And then when that gets ready, then we have to get the numbers on that to approve that work. But prior to doing that work, there is a 8-inch water line that kind of runs right down next to the north house and practically underneath part of that area. So the water line needs to be moved to the west a little ways and then continue running down through the park, down towards the marina. So that line needs to be moved. So that's the first thing that needs to be done, is getting some engineering specs on moving that line and some cost estimates on that. So that can get done along with the highway project, because part of that line does come out into a state highway right away. So now's the time to move it instead of tearing up brand new highway to move it after the fact. So that's how that water line affects the project.
Dave, I assume they're talking to you as much as you want them to?
Yeah, no, I've certainly been in the loop on this. The community connection is the corner next to the folk school. We put the little bridge in and the stormwater management in years ago, about 2013 or so. And we always knew that was a phase one of what was to be a two-phase project, where there'd be a landing, an idea of a scenic overlook right up along the highway, right at the sort of the junction of the bike trail. Right now, there's sort of that steep gravel slope up in the corner where we meet the North House property. And so this landing has been years in the making. We looked at real high level conceptual landscape architecture design of that a couple years ago, I believe in 2018. CJ Fernandez is the landscape architect that has been designing that. And that was really, informally reviewed by the park board in the city 2 or 3 years ago. At the time, it was just a concept. There were rough estimates in the $200,000 range for the landing itself, which is, stone work, and there's a architectural arbor that's been incorporated into it, sort of a bigger art piece. But that didn't include this water and utility work under the ground. And so that's where we're kind of circling back to that work being essential before the actual landscape work. And so again, like Craig is pointing out, like the first thing that's being studied and estimated is the cost to the water line. And that, I would say, is in conjunction with the further fine tuning of the landings plans and engineering plans, and to put some, 2021 pricing on that landing with the water line movement. And then all that will come back to the park and the city for review.
So the landing is going to be a contribution towards George Morrison.
That's right. Yep. That's the latest iteration, shows a very sculpted arbor piece that frames up this landing. So it's not just a deck, a concrete pad, but it also has an arbor enclosure that has a George Morrison totem theme to it. So we'll be certain to be looking at these plans as they are up for review over this next, I would say, 6 months or less. Like Craig says, the waterwork's got to get done this summer. So that's the fast track on the engineering. And that's what City Council looked at last week or 2 weeks. Well, just at their last meeting.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah. And then I would point out that I appeared before council at the first meeting in the 10th of February. I was the special guest of council to present our rec park master plan and our parkside boat launch plan. This was in an effort to have council included in citywide planning and reviews of all departments' plans. And so it was nice to touch base with council. There's a new council member, and we had a nice, robust review of the master plan as well as the boat launch plan. So some good questions from councilors there as far as the master plan. It's been now 11 to 12 years since that was adopted. And I think some indication and some suggestions that we will soon be revisiting that plan, revising that plan, and including the marina in that plan. But that's all for future thought.
Am I correct, Dave, that the 8th Avenue Stormwater Pond project is totally different than the one we've just been talking about?
That's right, Steve. Yep, other corner, but we'll get to that in my parks report.
Okay.
Anything else, Craig?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Dave.
Hey, thanks, Rita. I got a copy of the parks report today. And we've got item 1 already checked off. The special event application for Stone Harbor has been approved. Thank you for that. The second item here is a little proactive discussion of Canadian seasonal guests. You know, we had this issue last summer. We had 5 Canadian campers, seasonal campers, that store their camper on site. They were unable to cross the border. We were able to offer them that discount of $500 a month, you know, versus what was to be $750. And most of the guests we've been in touch with, of course, they've got their deposits in. They're hoping for the best. They're planning for the worst. And I think it'd be a good time now if we wanted to reaffirm that discount or just have a brief discussion about our Canadian guests. Most indications are the border will not be open as early as May, but potentially by...
I'm happy to reaffirm what we did last year, so long as they can't use the place. But the border is going to open sometime this year, I bet, based upon the rate of our vaccination rate in this county is wonderful.
Well, that could be true, Steve. We can't speak for Canada, though, and most of the feedback we're getting from the Canadian guests are they haven't had the same success with vaccinations. You know, Ontario was in a very strict lockdown for a number of weeks in January. There was like a literal no movement order in place for Ontario. And I think they're being much more restrictive across the border. And so most of the Canadian guests, seasonal guests right now, are expecting the border not to open on time. That is by May. And so if we wanted to, you know, like I say, reaffirm that discount or think of something better, we continue to work with these guests on solutions. Moving the trailer off site is the obvious one. It's difficult, though, when it's full of personal belongings and, you know, dishes. And yeah, we're, you know, happy to work with these folks and get a, you know, something more reasonably priced if they're not able to make the bill.
I move that we approve the approach that we took last year for so long as the border is not open.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Steve,
Aye.
Frankie,
Aye.
Craig,
Bye.
Bob,
Aye.
and Rita, myself. Aye. Okay, so we can let them know that, Dave.
Great, thank you all. And then some updates here on the highway. We've got the second season of construction coming into town, really downtown this summer. You can see the map that's available on the city website, and it's very illustrative of the impacts where they're going to really pick up right on our corner here on the 8th Avenue West corner is where they left off last season coming from the west as far as resurfacing and paving. But there'll be quite a lot of disruption between us and the North House. There'll be single lane traffic, flaggers, all that good stuff. Parking's going to be disrupted. And then the downtown stretch from basically the brewery Java Moose corner to the stoplight is closed from, what do they say, mid-May to early August, right? There's a super fun dig going on. I believe they're going to remove hundreds of thousand or 800,000 cubic yards of contaminated soil there in the ground because there's been a number of gas station underground storage tanks in that stretch over the years. And so you can imagine not being able to drive through on Highway 61 straight down into the heart of the corridor there at the library and the Dairy Queen. All that'll be closed to vehicular traffic from May to August. The detour will be down Wisconsin. And as a result, the art festival will not be able to set up on Wisconsin. They've made plans to set up at the high school. Even the Fisherman's Picnic and the Lions, I know, are working on a solution for setup early August should Wisconsin not be available. But it's going to be really tight downtown. Parking's going to be tight all over. We have, for a couple of years now, offered up our municipal public parking lot across the street here from the office. The old pool site would be suitable for off-street parking. I know the North House Spoke School has taken advantage of that offer, and they've already issued a map and a statement to their summer students that, here's what to expect coming in this summer, and parking nearby at the old pool lot. So just kind of an FYI there. We're really kind of fortunate in that all the activity will be to the east of us, and that I think our guests will be able to come into the park without having to go through that downtown traffic. 8th Avenue will still be the detour route to get folks up to the Gunflint Trail. I'm sure the stoplights will still be in effect up at the hospital. And whether or not County Road 7 is the truck route, I would guess it would be, but I haven't confirmed that.
Do I infer the likelihood that there will be some people who don't want to deal with the one lane between 8th and to the east, that they may well go up to 7th and come back down on Broadway to get to the downtown?
Absolutely, Steve. It's going to be a free-for-all. You don't have to follow the detour, and if you know where to go, they'll, I'm sure, be able to skirt around. Parking in that residential area as well will be sought after, so it'll be busy up above as well as down below. Any questions on the highway coming through? So the other note on the park side, public water access, really good news from the DNR. The bid for the break wall was successful. They had multiple bids. They were able to award the contract to Vite and Company Incorporated. I believe they're based out of Superior, Duluth, Twin Ports region. Very specialized firm in terms of demolition and construction, and just so happens to be the same firm that were low bid on the city's solicitation for demolition of the old public works garages. So here we have a little economy of scale. I believe they're able to save some costs by taking care of both of those jobs at once. Even the potential, I think, to backhaul the foundation, demolition from the old shop. We could picture like the rocks coming in and the old slab going out, and I think it's a good fit for Vite to be able to work both of those projects as they're in the same location. They're working towards the same end. So I haven't heard from Vite yet. They were just awarded the contract on Friday, and I can't confirm their schedule, but as we've talked about in the past, we would expect to see some heavy equipment movement maybe as early as this month, March. But certainly work will commence this spring. The contract calls for in the water work to begin June 1st and to be completed by September 28th. As we've been talking about all along, that site will be closed to the public. The boat launch will be closed, and we'll be reliant on the across the bay launch at the Coast Guard station.
And anything with the dog park, or the dog pound?
So the pound's scheduled for demo along with the garage. That'll go all at once when Vite comes to town. But I've been told the city and the county are diligently at work towards a suitable replacement. The law enforcement in particular have taken that to task, and I would expect a replacement facility up near the law enforcement business park, county garages. I think that's kind of where they're targeting. But yeah, no, they've got last update from Mike Roth downtown was that it's Sheriff Pat Eliason is on this, and they've got some plans for a modest replacement for the dog pound.
That's good news.
Yeah, so seasonal help wanted that time of year. We're going to be sending out recall letters to our staff of last year. They all have the right to return, and we send out recall letters in March. We're hoping to hear positive, we'll be back news from most of our staff, but we also know several have moved on due to graduations and other job opportunities. So we're anticipating openings in all our positions down here. We staff the park office, the maintenance, and then the custodial work. And we've already rolled out job openings on the city newsletter and the city website. And so now just doing the network thing and letting everybody know we've got some really good summer jobs down here starting in May, running through October. Starting wage is $14.60 there. And so if anybody's got any nieces or cousins that are looking for work, send them our way. Do
you expect Paul to be hiring at the golf course at all, or is everybody coming back?
He has indicated everybody's coming back, but we'll always take a look at good applicants. We're in the building staff always looking for good applicants. So, but it's good news from the course. I believe Paul's expecting all of his staff to be back. So we at least got that basics covered. But I know just firsthand of some really key positions down here, we aren't 100%, returning. So we're going to have 3, 4, 5 openings down here. And then the last thing is just a last minute add-on, but it's pertinent just for an FYI. I know City Council is going to be taking this up on their next agenda at the next meeting. The Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District, they worked with the city a couple years ago on redoing the stormwater management plan, and lots of opportunities throughout the city to improve stormwater management. A lot of work in and around the Highway 61 corridor as a part of that project. There's work out east by the dental office. You saw all that go in last season, where that storm bed was really enhanced next to the dental office. And so it looks like this summer they've got their eyes on the retention pond here across the street above the old pool site. Right, there's a vintage stormwater retention pond. 2 major stormwater underground culverts drain into that pond from really like the 30 some acres of city land above us. And so in major rain events, we see that pond fill and then overflow and flood our campsites south of that pond in the rec hall, playground, bathhouse 3 area. There's this seasonal stormwater channel that when we get these 5-6 inch rain events has been cresting and then flooding out our campsites. And so I've been working with Soil and Water over the past couple of years. They've got grant money secured. That's the good news. It shouldn't be costing us anything. And I've looked at some engineered plans for that pond with Phil Larson from Soil and Water. I believe he's going to be presenting to council next week. And we've been, going over landscaping and sort of keep it natural look. We'll do some pollinator plantings and some native shrubberies and trees to recover that site after it's reshaped. But the real goal there is to make an engineered drain that's able to accommodate these major storm events and not continually flood us out downstream. So that's it.
One question: what's an engineered drain?
Well, I could show you the plans, but it's an expensive drain. It's got holes here and here and here. But it's really designed to sort of take these major storm events and not release all the water at once, but to retain the water, settle the water, and slowly let it flow out.
So it retains some of the water to keep it going more slowly out through our property.
That's right.
Okay.
And to settle the sediment. Currently it's just one big pond. It certainly gets the sediment over time. We do have to go in there and clean it out about, I'd say every 5 years or so. We have the big backhoe go in and muck out all the silt and sediment that is being collected there. And it's a pretty invasive process. As a result, we've got invasive species creeping into there because of how it's been maintained in the past. It wasn't really designed to be maintained correctly. And so part of this design will allow for continued maintenance and access to the settling ponds to be able to clean those out as needed without too much of a disruption to the slope and the landscape in and around that pond. But I made a point that it's on our corner. It's very obvious, and we want it to look pretty when we're done. So we'll be looking at native plantings and perennial flowers and that sort of stuff. The other point, or the other tidbit of that corner is our sign. We don't currently have a sign up there. We took it down last year because, as we recall, half of it's in the right of way. And we'll probably put up something temporary this summer, but soon we'll look at a new sign. We'll look at engaging like a design and when the community connection was being planned with that landing, there was some talk of a really big, beautiful monument piece of a sign on our corner, and that was running into that 6-figure range. And I didn't feel there was a lot of appetite from the board for that. And so we'll certainly bring some options for signs, but we get it. We don't need to spend hundreds of thousands on a sign. But we would probably spend maybe 5 figures, 10 or 20,000. We'll see. It's definitely something it would be designed this year and installed next spring.
Well, I had suggested in previous meetings that possibly with all the artistic people we have in Grand Marais of doing some type of sign contest and offering, prize money for the design. Be kind of nice to have something designed by a local artist or something like that.
That's right. That's a great idea, Rita. And the Creative Economy Collaborative, the Arts Collaborative is our group. Frank is a member of that as well as myself. And so we can work with that group on that idea.
That'd be a neat thing to do with the sign. Anything else, Dave?
That's it under the Parks report.
Okay, so we'll just move on to old business.
A quick comment on the arts thing, and that is, I remember that we have down in Lutzen a sculptor who does a whole lot of public monument type stuff. So you might want to include him in the conversation, depending upon what kind of sign you're looking to do.
Yeah, no, Greg Mueller, you're referring to Greg Mueller, and he is on that CEC group. He is a member of the Creative Arts group.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so the only old business we have on here is the seasonal site placement policy. Is this something that we want to work on now, or just keep it as old business, bring it up when we need to implement changes?
Well, I do have an update, Rita. Last meeting we talked about the auction, but then we really stopped and said we better talk to our attorney.
Right.
And so we did. I talked to Mike Roth downtown, our administrator, about this over the course of the last month. He was able to get a reply from Chris Hood, who's our attorney. Chris does have some concerns about an auction to the highest bidder. We would definitely have to spend more time on this if we're in agreement that we like the idea of an auction. It would take quite a bit more time, I feel, especially working with legal. Chris has some concerns about the fairness, the equity. We've also heard this from several of our seasonal guests who've heard about our plan, or that these meetings are broadcast, and I think people are tuning in, and so they're aware that we're thinking about this. We've got some feedback over the last month that the auction doesn't seem fair, but it has some potential if the money, it's the bidding and the money that's really creates this rub and the inequity. Chris is not a fan of first come, first serve either. So he suggests that city staff do more research on other options utilized by other campgrounds. And yeah, thanks, Chris, but we have done that research. We've realized we're probably the only public campground that offers seasonal sites. Well, maybe not the only, but it's very difficult to find the kind of research that we would need on this. Most of the seasonal campgrounds we've encountered are private. They sell the lot as real estate, so it's a whole different operation. It's not a public lot. It's not a public campground. Public campgrounds as a whole don't offer seasonal camping. The few that did, maybe there was the idea of a fee to be on the list, and that has I think some appeal if we're looking at this as a way to capture some revenue on the demand. Mike and I have talked about like a seat license for season tickets for Lambeau, right? If you want to win the lottery for your season tickets, you have to pay to be in the club that they're going to choose from. And so we might circle back to that idea of, I'm sorry, Rita?
That's similar though. You're taking money, and is that fair or not? I know Sam had checked into taking deposits for people on the list and talked to other parks on how they did it. And then Frankie had brought up that how she got in her apartment as far as bidding. Now I don't know, Frankie, did you have to pay an additional amount to get in your apartment, or? Oh, your speaker's up there.
There we go. We just all made a bid not knowing what anybody else bid. And then the highest bidder won.
Okay. And the other thing I want to bring up and make note of is that seasonal people may have brought up some concerns, and I understand that, but it doesn't affect the people that are already there. So hopefully they understand that. And if they're watching, I hope they understand that it doesn't affect you if you already have a spot.
That's right. No, I'm pretty sure they do, but it's this idea of new people coming in, selling them their spot based on a higher bid. It's smacks at elitism. I have a huge problem with entitlement. You know, if you're bidding $5,000 for this site, you know, you're going to feel like you own it. And we can't perpetuate that. We could change the rules next year and get rid of seasonals. And then, you know, what did they buy? It's like, that's what I mean. If we feel this is a good idea, we'll continue to flush it out. So I'm maybe just taking a temperature of the room right now as to like, how much more time should we spend on this? And I'm perfectly willing to go down that road. I think, like I say, a fee to be on the list, $100 to be on the list annually isn't the same as, you know, $2,000 here, $2,500 there. You know, it's not in that $1,000 of bidding range. It's just a placeholder. It's you're serious. You have intent. Perhaps if you continue, if it's an annual fee and you've been paying it for 3 or 4 or 5 years, your chances are greater that you will get a site. You know, if there's some correlation to the time spent on the list, that would honor the current expectation that, right, we signed up 5 years ago, you know, what is that worth? And it is working in the sense that Sam's been busy placing sites. She's calling folks from 2015, 2016. They're thrilled to get a call and be respected that they, you know, have waited for this. And we're also calling out the people that have passed away or are no longer interested. And so,
well, it might help, like Sam had said, it worked in other parks having that deposit to be on that list. Maybe it would take a number of people off that list. It just seems like it's getting to be out of control as far as 300 people on a waiting list, and that might take care of some of it.
Are we talking about $50 or $500 to be on that list, or somewhere in between?
I would guess so.
Yeah, it's you know, we're just discussing anything right now, Steve. Again, no rush, because we can't change the rules today.
No.
We have like, you know, 9 months to figure this out.
So do we want to discuss it any further? Think about it, put it on for discussing in a later date? I mean, I don't know when the deadline is. That we should probably before the season, because you're going to get a lot of people asking again to be put on that list.
I think $50 sounds more fair than $100.
Sam, what did you hear from other people in other parks that they asked for being put on a list? What were their fees?
I've only ever talked to that one campground, and they said their same thing was just they would take $100 to be on the list, and then if nobody wanted to pay it but one person, and then that $100 went towards their first seasonal rent so it wasn't like paying $100 each year.
Right.
Like I said, that's the only campground because majority of places they don't do lists. It's just, but they don't, you know. You go and like, do you have any openings? Nope, sorry. And it's just, you know, you can ask, but they don't have openings. Most of them are private. I'm still doing some research on it, but right now I've been working on the list instead of doing that research.
That's good. That's good.
But I have filled 5 new seasonals, so.
Well, lucky them.
Right.
For whatever it's worth, I'm not particularly fired up about the auction idea. I rather like the idea of rewarding seniority, you know, the loyalty of people who are there rather than money. But we don't have to decide anything today.
I think that we might want to look into at least putting an amount on for having your name on the list.
Sure.
Prior to the season opening. So when they continue to get barraged with people wanting to be put on the list, if we let them know that there is a fee, it might make up their mind whether they're serious or not. Might take some of that off of Sam's hands, and she may not have to go through that continual 10-page list. So I'm going to put a motion out there that we should have $100 deposit on hand if you want to be put on that list. And stay on
Rita,
Yep.
just to stop you for 1 second, like, so I just went through like 200 and some people and asked who wanted to still be on the list, and now to go back and ask them again to pay up, is this like, I guess I'm confused. Like, are you looking for everybody who's already on it to start this, or new people, or I don't know?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know if we want to.
And maybe I'll try to get in touch with that campground, because this was me talking to him at the sports show 2 years ago. And so maybe if I can get in touch with them and we could bring it up next month and decide on that, possibly, just so I can figure out what they actually did.
Sounds good.
If I heard it correctly, for this season, we're going to be pretty well done with the issue by the time we would get back to it. So we're really talking about a decision for next season that we can do in our leisurely way.
We are, but they continually get asked all summer long to be put on that list, Steve. All the people that come through the door that want seasonal spots. So if we're going to adapt any changes, we'd want it prior to the busy season of people coming through and saying they want to be put on the list.
So Dave, you and Sammy want to see what you come up with, something that you would think might work for us, that would relating to the list. I suppose I should ask Sammy the question: how many people do you call that are on the list who say, "Oh, I've changed my mind, don't bother me"?
Well, I just sent out probably like close to 200, 180 or so emails of who I had email addresses for. Probably about 30 or 35 of those ones bounced, but 30 or 40 people maybe said, take me off. Some people said, just keep me on. And a lot of the ones in the last 2 years all said, keep me on. But I did have a number of people that took me off. So I don't know. I mean, I've called probably 10 people and I got 5 sites or 4 or 5 sites filled in just 10. So it's a process.
Yeah, I think the names are getting fresher as we work closer to the current, people signing up in 16, 17, 18, they're still pretty serious. But it's the old 2012, 13, 14 era stuff that is no longer relevant. But I like this. I'm certainly willing to work with Sam on this over the next month and get some of these ideas on paper, this notion of a deposit. And I would only feel it fair to apply it to the entire list, not just new people signing up. But we can put together some ideas on paper for next month.
Sounds like a plan.
How often do you, like, if you're going to put a fee on this, you're going to have to go through your list and update it and weed out those who don't want to be on it anymore. Then you're going to realize who wants to actually pay to be on the list. So you're going to get the serious people that are going to want to pay $100 to maybe wait 1 or 2 or 3 years to get a site. That probably, I think, would shrink your list a little bit, make it easier to operate. I guess so as you update your list, that would be the time to, like, hey, we're starting a new policy here. We need a deposit to hold your name on this list, and as sites open up, we contact people as the date that they're created themselves on that list,
So are you talking about making them pay every year 100 or just one time?
No, just a one-time deal.
Just one deposit. I agree with Craig that, that would probably weed out a lot of people, but.
It kind of happened like this before I bought my slip in the yacht club. I had talked to Dave many years ago about, having my boat in the marina. Well, at that time there was 36 people waiting for a slip. you know, and that list was old, had been established a long time. And then later that summer, all of a sudden, Dave got a hold of me and said, "Hey, we got a spot for you." And I kind of thought, I just bought a slip. So, I mean, it was one of those deals where, you know, list gets updated. A lot of people drop off of it. They decide they don't want to slip, you know, it's keeping the list fresh. You know, keeping the list fresh is something that's, you know, that's hard to do, but you have to.
So Dave and Sam, do you
Deposit,
feel
it'll
like,
keep it fresh.
do you feel like you could look into it for our next meeting in April, and we'd still have enough time to adapt a policy depending on what you find out?
Yeah. Yes.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay. Craig,
Yeah.
does that sound good?
Yeah, I think so. It'd be great.
Okay. So we will put this on the minutes for next, on the agenda for next month's meeting then, and look for some updates or some other ideas or any changes. We'll decide at that time. And any other new business that anybody wants to bring up?
I just have a question. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I just confirmed today that Radio Waves, the WTIP Music Festival, will not be taking place in the rec park in September this year. So we've gone ahead and released those sites out west that typically get reserved for the radio. We started taking September reservations yesterday. And so it's good that, well, it's good and bad, but because they won't be holding the Radio Waves at the sledding hill, we're able to sell those sites adjacent, and several have already sold. So I talked with Matthew Brown up at the station this morning. I believe they're planning a festival, but very scaled down, taking place at the station in the parking lot with live bands under a tent. And based on the COVID situation at the time, they may be able to include guests in the parking lot.
Sounds like it's all worked out.
Dave, that's my backyard. It's 100 yards away. You can all come sit on our bench and listen.
You can sell parking spots.
Awesome. That's a good plan, Bob.
I ain't gonna sell nothing ever again. We give it away.
Steve, did you have any new business?
Oh, for hole in one though, right, Bob?
I am gonna learn to golf, Steve. I'm quite serious about that. So keep an
Well,
eye on.
let me know when you want to go out, because I'm always looking for somebody to play with.
I think I need an instructor though.
Steve,
Well-
did you have any new business you wanted to bring up? Steve, any new business you wanted to bring up? You had a question before Dave spoke?
I may have had a question, but it has gone away.
Okay, so if we don't have any other business, any other comments, I'll just go ahead and adjourn this. A motion to adjourn?
If you want to just declare it, we can do it by unanimous consent.
Sounds good.
Bye.
All right, everybody take care until
you.
next time. We'll talk again.
Thank you all.